Hi, and welcome to the Sabbath Christian Church's online sermon. Thou shalt not commit adultery, the seventh commandment. Let's take a closer look at that, because that commandment is pretty important to God, that people don't commit adultery. In Leviticus 19:20 it says, "Now if a man lies carnally with a woman," now the Hebrew for carnally means to lie down for a sexual act. And carnally is carnally. Who was a slave for another man, but who was in no way been redeemed nor given any given any punishment, they shall not be put to death because she was not free. In Leviticus 20:10 it says, "If a man commits adultery with another man's wife, who commits adultery with a friend's wife, the adulterer and the adulteress shall surely be put to death." Whereas fornication, the desire for another man's wife, was wrong, the 10th commandment, the method of death in some cases was burning. Hebrews 13:4 says, "Marriage is to be held in honor among all. The marriage bed is to be undefiled. For fornicators and adulterers God will judge." In Genesis it says what the judgment would be. 38:24, "Now it was about 3 months later that Judah was informed, 'Your daughter-in-law Tamar has played the harlot. Behold, she is with child by harlotry.' Then Judah said, 'Bring her out and let her be burned.'" And more often than not, stoning. And Deuteronomy 22:24, "You shall bring them both forth out of the gate of the city, and you shall stone them to death, the girl because she did not cry out, and the city and the man because he violated his neighbor's wife. Thus you shall purge evil from among you." God is pretty strong against all manner of adultery. Divorce, except for unfaithfulness, was hateful to God, and in some circumstances expressly forbidden. Immodesty as seen needless inducement to adultery. And 2 Samuel 11:2, "Now when the evening came, David arose from his bed and walked around the roof of the king's house, and from the roof he saw a woman bathing, and the woman was very beautiful in appearance." That is also forbidden. Godly men sought to discipline their eyes. Job says, "I have a covenant with my eyes. How could I gaze at a virgin?" Way back. And 2 Peter 2:14 says, "Having eyes full of adultery, they never cease from sin, enticing unstable souls, having a heart trained in greed, accursed children, and hence their minds." Matthew 5:28 says, "But I say to you that everyone who looks at a woman for lust has already committed adultery with her in his heart or mind." So it goes into more and more about the subject of adultery. Prostitution was forbidden. Leviticus 19:29. Priests were commanded not to marry a prostitute. If their daughters turned prostitute, they were to be executed. Sacred prostitution, homosexuality, Deuteronomy 23:18, bestiality, Exodus 32:19, transvestiture, Deuteronomy 22:5, were all forbidden as violations of the sanctity of marriage. Nothing new. Polygamy was forbidden in the creation covenant, Leviticus 18:18. Hosea depicts a connection between Israel's faithfulness to Jehovah and the dissolution of social and religious ties. Religious union with Jehovah is not kept sacred. There, no human marriage can be secure. People need to have faith in God and keep the commandments, and they need that kind of thing to have a relationship with God. That's very important. Religious whoredom, again, issues in physical whoredom, and Hosea 4:11. Sin was the want of conformity to the ideal of marriage, affection and loyalty. Israel was condemned for disavowing God's claim as the marriage Lord. This is what God, He created the male and female, the marriage Lord. They have served other gods by practicing cultic and spiritual prostitution. Marriage was covenantally constituted before God. Proverbs 2:17. Required the husband's ability to produce a family and love for his wife. It is a covenant before God to have a family, and that the family should be that way. Positively, marriage was to be observed both as an act, 1 Corinthians 7:2, and as a structural institution, Ephesians 5:23. It was honorable, Hebrews 13:4. Mates were chosen from the covenant community. So marriage is a covenant between God and His people that He created, as we said, male and female, and that they would have children. The Word reminds us of the fact that God relates to His people not only as their sovereign king, but also as their husband. In Jesus' name, thank you for watching and listening.